Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. I'm KP, Nick is here in the 10th with me once more because today we're going to be going through our weekly recap of NXT for this week. This is last night's edition, being the 25th of November, and this is Gold Rush Week 2. So following off from the success of Week 1, we get to sort of like double down now and just to discuss everything that happened on this version of Gold Rush and just discuss everything that took place. So how about we kick things off? Let's start off with the first bit of action throughout the course of the night, and we would see a one-on-one match for the Men's Evolve Championship, that being Jackson Drake, the defending champion, taking on challenger Super Sean Legacy. And for those watching Evolve, I think it's fair to say that Sean Legacy is one of the top superstars on the brand. He has been for basically the entire time since it started, and he's always been in and around the conversation to win the Evolve Championship. He's never quite got his hands on it. In fact, the only champion so far has been Jackson Drake, and he's always found a way to sort of schemingly get the victory and to hold on to his gold. This matchup was, pardon the pun, was super fun. It was very, very good. It was really, really engaging between both men. Just the flow of the matchup was really nice. It had a good feel to it. And just generally speaking, yeah, it was absolutely solid. So I think these guys really showed up and showed out here. If you're not really an avid watcher of Evolve and you watch this one, you might have thought to yourself, you know what, these two guys, they're pretty damn good. And yeah, this is just a taste of what Evolve does sort of delivered on a weekly basis. But this is on the upper echelon of that sort of style for sure. But it was a really good matchup between both men. Thought they brought the best out of one another. And yeah, in the end, it was Jackson Drake who managed to score the victory here to get the win, hit the unaliving, and that'll be enough to get the win over Super Sean Legacy. So once again, Sean failing to capture the gold, falling short of the last hurdle. And yeah, quite a surprise, I think, because I genuinely expected Sean Legacy to get the victory here. So I was shocked by this and yeah, a little bit of perplexed that Jackson Drake once again finds a way to hold on to his goal. But what a match it was. Really, really good start to Gold Rush, and yeah, great start to the night. We would then go on to a match between Fallon Henley and Zarya in the Women's Speed Championship final. This would be the vacated title from Soruka's injury, even though Soruka is now fresh. So, interesting situation for sure. But because of that situation, we do have Fallon Henley going one-on with Zarya, and this was a match that I don't want to be quoted for this, but I'm pretty sure this is the longest speed match that's been so far, because this one went to overtime. Got to 5 minutes in the contest, and nobody had pinned, got a pinfall or submission at that point. So Ava comes down very, very quickly and basically says, you know what, we're not ending it like this. We have to have a new champion because the championship is vacant. So basically get this one started again. First pinfall or submission gets the win. And yeah, we get to a point where we see Lainey Reed on the outside. She sort of pulls Fallon Henley out of the way as Zarya is looking to weigh up possibly a spear or a shoulder tackle or something on Fallon. And instead, she manages to make contact with the steel steps. Henley gets Zarya back into the ring, hits a Shining Wizard, and then hits the hoedown in order to get the victory and to become the NXT Women's Speed Champion. So Fallon Henley getting a little bit of history here, actually being the only woman in WWE history to have held the Women's NXT Tag Team Championships, the NXT Women's North American Championship, and now the NXT Women's Speed Championship. So yeah, making a little bit of a exclusive club that she's the only member of. So very exciting stuff there for Fallon Henley, and puts a smile on my face. One of my absolute favorites getting the win there. But yeah, just fantastic result for her. Probably my favorite speed match, that's been so far, just because it actually felt like a normal contest. It didn't feel too rushed or anything. So yeah, just maybe the early stages there were a lot of pinfalls. That's like my only real critique here, but even still, just had a great time watching this one. And yeah, the sudden death sort of stipulation at the end of it made it quite interesting for sure. But very, very pleased with Fallon Henley. What a win for her. And then we would get John Cena selecting competitors for this year's Men's Iron Survivor Challenge. We're going to include both in this situation here. So we did have the women's one announced a little bit later on, but we're going to go for both right here, right now. So John Cena was said last week that he was going to select the competitors this week. And for the Men's Iron Survivor Challenge, he would select the likes of Javon Evans, Leon Slater, Joe Hendry, Dion Lennox of Dark State, and also it would be Miles Bourne or Trick Williams in the match that was going to be happening later on tonight. So the winner of that one would also be the fifth man being included here. So yeah, exciting stuff. Looking forward to that matchup later on tonight. We'll talk about that a little more later on. But in terms of the field that John Cena selected, absolutely stacked. Really, really fun mix here that they've got going on. And some fresh people. Very interestingly, none of these men have held the NXT Championship. So They're going with fresh people, which I really, really like, and I love that for this group of talent. So that's really, really cool to see. We'd also see then the women's later on, but we'll talk about that now. Like I said, the women's group would be none other than Kalani Jordan, Soruka, Kendall Gray, the women's evolved champion. We would see also Jordan Grace and Lola Vice. So again, like the men's, none of these women have been the NXT Women's Champions. So brilliant to see them including different people. We've had some North American champions in this mix, but none of the actual NXT Women's Champion themselves. So yeah, really, really fun combination. Absolutely cracking group of 5 women who are absolutely going to kill it. Really looking forward to both these contests. Should be 2 hell of deadline matches. So yeah, really excited. Nick, what do you make of our first half of NXT? Obviously, we've got Gold Rush kicking off with the Evolve Championship match. What did you make of that one? I don't think you're a massive sort of like Evolve watcher, but what do you think of this little sort of like a little bit of a taste for the men's championship contest? What do you make of Fallon Henley winning that speed championship in the overtime sort of situation there? And then also, what about those 2 groups for the deadline matches, the Iron Survivor challenges? They look really stacked.
Yeah, lots to talk about here. I think, and as you alluded to, I am not an Evolve watcher. I wish I had the time, but I for whatever reason don't work it in quite yet. But and I say this every time they do appear on NXT or some product that I do watch, and that is, these guys had quite a bit of talent, and the same with the women's or the women's match we see later involving a talent from Evolve. They certainly give me reason to watch them, and I probably should, but just haven't yet. So, yeah, this particular match, Shawn Legacy and Jackson Drake. Even I've seen a fair few matches of Legacy, but haven't seen much of Jackson Drake. But just comparatively speaking, from the first time I did see him and Swipe Right compared to now, you can just see how much they've evolved in such a short time. So yeah, this was a really fun contest, fast, hard hitting, a good amount of back and forth, and some pretty innovative offense there too as well. So can't imagine, if I don't end up getting to Evolve, can't imagine it would be too long before these guys end up finding themselves on NXT. And what I feel like is the men's side isn't quite as stacked as the women's roster on NXT. We'll just say that. So definitely some room for them to possibly be called up, I guess we would call that. Yeah, maybe sooner rather than later we will see them up on NXT's roster. The Speed Championship, yeah, didn't have any issues with that. Of course, related for you and Fallon Henley, one of your favorites, getting that title as well, making some history there. I thought that was a great moment, and having now 2 of the 3 members of Fatal Influence winning a title. You could argue it's not really a speed match per se because it didn't really adhere to the guidelines, but the right call absolutely for Ava to come out and just say, continue going on until you get a champion. Obviously, I think you would be right in that is probably the longest speed quote unquote match because it was going for a vacant title and didn't finish in time. So yeah, I think that was probably the best, and probably even though it didn't adhere to the typical guidelines, but. Yeah, I thought that was great as well. Obviously, Laney Reed being the biggest help there to pull Fallon out of the way to let Zarya taste some of those steel steps. So that was a nice ending. Keeping Zarya safe there a bit too as well. And I imagine Soul and Zarya will have have a conversation on that soon as well. So yeah, 2 out of 3 members of Fatal Influence holding gold now. Had been really looking forward to that 3rd match with Laney Reed later on in the night. And of course, we'll get to that in just a bit. As for the deadline competitors, first the men, yeah, I like the fact that you mentioned that everyone here in both matches not having won that big title in NXT. So yeah, I think that's a great idea. Fresh start. I don't think I've mentioned on the podcast, but I know I've mentioned to you off air. I'm not the biggest fan of Deadline, and maybe maybe I've seen the wrong ones, but in terms of what these matches bring, yeah, it had my attention. Javon being in there, of course, with Leon, that'd be great, and a couple of fresh new faces in there with Joe Hendry, John Lennox, and Miles Bourne. Yeah, should at the very least create some new and exciting angles. And for the women's, I feel like a lot of these women have been around the title picture, but as you alluded to, just haven't quite gotten it yet. Of course, with the likes of Kalani, Soul, Jordan, and Lola. all four of those women are deserving. And then Kendall Gray, and I think I said this on the last time she was on NXT. She's got something special, and obviously why she holds gold right now. But yeah, I think she'll probably be on NXT sooner rather than later as well. But I really like her. I think she has a lot of potential. But yeah, really exciting first half of Gold Rush. I think comparatively speaking, week 2 didn't look as good as week 1, but so far definitely delivered.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think on paper, maybe week 1 did look a little bit stronger, but I think so far it has had a really good, strong start for sure, and been quite impressive. How about we go through into the second half of the show, see if that sort of like keeps up with the general vibe so far, and we would see next the Women's TNA Knockouts Championship being defended on the line by by Kalani Jordan. She would put it on against Lei Ying Lee of TNA, as well as Jordan Grace, one of the NXT talents who previously has held that championship in the past. So, yeah, made a bit of a name for herself doing so as well. This one was a really fun match. I thought all three women just absolutely showcased what they can really do here. It was very much kind of gripping to watch, really, just everything that sort of took place. It was very back and forth, and yeah, it just flowed really nicely. Got to a point in the end where we do see Jordan Grace lay out Kalani Jordan with a very nice move. Slams down onto the canvas, like spinning her onto the mat. And Lei Ying Lee sort of takes advantage here, hits like a spinning kick to the back of Jordan Grace's head, sort of bounces off of Kalani Jordan's face. I'm not sure if that was intended. But yeah, that sort of ricochets her out of the ring. Lei Ying Lee has that opportunity then just to basically pin Kalani Jordan, and she wins the TNA Knockouts Championship. And it was a really, really emotional moment for her. You could see that she was absolutely over the moon with it, completely overjoyed by the situation. And yeah, she's sort of like taking in every single second of that particular moment. But it was a really fun match, really well done between all three women. And yeah, it was a really compelling contest to watch. I think at any point, really, it just sort of like was a case of, either of these women could really get like opportunities to really capitalize, and it was Lei Ying Lee that would do so. So yeah, just a really good triple threat matchup, really solid for sure, and another really good matchup here on NXT Gold Rush. So yeah, great moment for Lei Ying Lee getting her first singles championship in TNA as well. Really, really pleased for her, and yeah, what a win, what a match. We would then see the Women's Evolve Championship being defended. This will see Kendall Gray put her gold on the line against Fatal Influence's Lainey Reed. The opportunity now for, after Fallon's win earlier on with the Speed Championship, for all three members of Fatal Influence to get some gold. And unfortunately for Lainey Reed, didn't quite work out her way because Kendall Gray would pick up the victory here. There'd be a point in the contest where Fatal Influence would try and get involved. Even though they've been barred from ringside, they would come on down and get in the face of Kendall Gray, but wouldn't work out in the end because we do see Ren Sinclair who's sort of around the situation, and Charlie Dempsey as well returns and is sort of just coming to the aid of the aid of Ren here, really, per se. And it gets to a point where they're all ejected from ringside. Kendall Gray sees opportunity, takes advantage. After a bit of back and forth between her and Lainey Reed, it is Kendall that gets the victory here and defeats defeat Lainey. So yeah, really good match. I enjoyed this one for what it was worth. I think it was the Shades of Grey, I think is what she calls a finishing move. It's like a flatliner type move. She'd hit that to get the win and get the 1-2-3. So yeah, fun matchup for sure. Just sort of saw a little bit of what Kendall Gray can really do. She's been sort of showcasing at NXT, relatively frequently recently, which is amazing for her. She absolutely deserves that. She's a really good talent for the future. And yeah, just another solid victory, solid performance, and retains her Women's Evolve Championship. Lainey Reed, I wouldn't have expected to have won this matchup anyway, regardless. So no real surprises here in my opinion or perspective. But yeah, just a good solid contest between both ladies, and enjoyed it for what it was worth. We then go into our main event. This will see Miles Bourne go one-on-one with Trick Williams, which was already sort of heated anyway between both men. But now we had that sort of extra little bit of interest, being that the winner of this one is a fifth member for the Men's Iron Survivor Challenge matchup. So quite interesting, the stakes there on the line. And yeah, Miles Bourne, we've seen him win some good matches in NXT, but he hasn't really had that sort of standout victory. We saw him become the number one contender for the NXT Men's Championship a few months ago, where he'd go on to Obafemi and lose to him, unfortunately for himself. But yeah, and since then, hasn't really had that big win in his locker. But this version of Gold Rush, this week for it, would be the difference maker for him. He would have a great match with Trick Williams, would go back and forth, be a pretty hellacious bout between both men, and that would see the action spill to ringside at one point. Trick goes for a trick shot, and Miles Bourne dodges it, resulting in Trick hitting the steel steps instead of Miles. And as a result of that, Miles hits a Born Again on the outside. I think the second time he'd hit it in the contest so far. Once was in the ring prior to it, where that got a kick out from Trick Williams at 2. And then once back in the ring, he would hit the Born Again once more, and that would be enough for Miles Bourne to get the victory here over Trick Williams. So very, very interesting result there. Trick losing to Miles, which effectively puts him out of the contendership for the NXT title. We say this often, but surely that is the end of Trick Williams on NXT now. I can't see what else there is for him to do. He's effectively been removed from the conversation for the title, so surely he goes on to bigger and better things now. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, that would be my sort of understanding here. I know I said that before, but this feels like it probably is now. There's surely no way back for him now. But as Miles is celebrating here, doesn't get much of a chance to do so. We see Dark State come on down. Obviously, one of those members of Dark State being Dion Lennox. He is involved in the Iron Survivor Challenge. So, yeah, with Dark State sort of swarming the ring, Miles obviously 4-on-1, not a good situation. But he does get then accompanied by Juvon Evans, Leon Slater, and Joe Hendry, who were obviously the other members of the Iron Survivor Challenge matchup. So yeah, a bit of a 4 vs 4 there at the end of NXT, a little bit of a brawl, and that could be perhaps going on to maybe a 4 vs 4 tag team match coming up in a soon episode of NXT. So yeah, I mean, decent end to the show. Sort of quickly goes right. This is Gold Rush. Now we're going to move to going straight to Deadline. So seems to be like a nice little transition there right at the very end. We've done this. Now we've got this coming up. Let's do that. So yeah, not a bad way to end the show. Quite enjoyed that one in a sense, and just 3 solid matches prior to that as well. Nick, what did you make of our second half of NXT? What a win for Lei Ying Li with that championship win for the TNA Knockouts Championship. Kendall Gray retains her goal against Lainey Reed via some, bit of altercations from a previously barred from ringside fatal influence, but she still got the job done. And then Miles Bourne with a massive victory against Trick Williams, who seemingly has nothing else left to do now. But what did you make of all of this?
Yeah, really good second half. I argue that second half even better than the first, and the first was pretty good as well. So, yeah, obviously TNA Knockouts World Championship match. I would put that as the best match of the night. I just thought that match was a ton of fun. All 3 women kind of showing why they deserve to be in it. And I did not expect Kalani Jordan to lose the title there, but she does, and she does to Lei Ying Li, who I always felt kind of got a bad shake on the main roster of WWE as Xia Li. Had a cool character, and obviously has a good look to her. I mean, I feel like she didn't really get a fair shake, but regardless, what a feel good moment for her. Kind of still on the WWE picture, if you will, and just a feel good moment for her to finally get that title or a title on the WWE show. So yeah, it was a really good moment, and yeah, really gave you the warm fuzzies. Happy for her. So curious to see what she can do with that over on the TNA side, or if Kalani will move on. Obviously, she's now a part of Deadline, so maybe she will. But yeah, we'll have to see. Jordan once again having a title eluded from her, but she's also in that Deadline match as well. So, someone's going to get a title that's long overdue on the women's side. Speaking of the women, the next match being Lainey Reed and Kendall Gray for that Evolve Women's Championship. And yeah, this was another good match. Kind of alluded to it earlier, but Kendall Gray just continues to impress me. Lainey Reed has a ton of potential as well. So essentially 2 people here who, I think have, endless possibilities on the main roster eventually. So I had this weird feeling though that with Fallon winning earlier, I had the feeling that maybe they were going to pull the trigger, have each member of Fatal Influence, dripping in gold. I thought that would be a really cool story and a really cool angle to go about. But alas, it was not the case. Kendall Gray obviously is kind of in a league of her own, I feel like, at the moment. So I don't think it's a big deal for Lenny to have lost that either. But yeah, this was another really good contest. And the good contests don't stop there with that main event, Miles Bourne and Trick Williams. I think you're right. Trick Williams, I think, needs to go up the main roster. He's been eating quite a few losses lately, at least it feels like, and to me. And him being one of my favorites, I don't love to see that. But on the other side of that same coin, Miles Bourne has been flirting with going to bigger and better places in NXT, and I think this is absolutely the right call to have him win here and be included in that Deadline match. Yeah, I didn't realize it until we saw all the guys Dark State come down to the ring as they love to do, and it kind of it made me chuckle a bit. We will absolutely get a tag team match probably next week, the 4v4 there, as we tend to do with Dark State from time to time, but didn't realize that four of the five guys in Deadline are all faces. So it'll be an interesting dynamic when that time comes for that Deadline match on the men's side. But yeah, another good match. I'm excited for Miles Bourne. I think he has a lot of potential as well, and has really come into his own since leaving in QCC. So, yeah, ton of fun. Like I said, second half even better than the first half. But the entire show, as I mentioned earlier, just on paper, it didn't look like it was going to be near as good as week one, but I'd argue it was just as good and, maybe even better. I guess up for debate. But regardless, still a quality 2 weeks of Gold Rush here on NXT. I think I'd give this one a 9 out of 10. Just a lot of fun. And yeah, as you said, on to Deadline, since we have one more show, and then on to Deadline. So curious to see what NXT can do for us next week.
Yeah, it seems to be all systems go for Deadline. So yeah, looking forward to seeing how we sort of go from here to there. But yeah, in terms of this Gold Rush, 2 week special thing that we can say, some really quality matches across the course of the card. Can't think of any real low points, to be honest with you. But yeah, we're just a solid couple of weeks, and happy to see what we get going forward to our next event. But for now, guys, this has been everything everything in terms of discussing Gold Rush. If you liked what you heard, then please consider hitting a like on our video, subscribing to our channel, and keeping up with future releases coming out very, very soon. For those of you that are obviously, very interested in what we do here, we'd love to hear what you're thinking about, everything and all sorts, really. So regarding this episode of Gold Rush, if you liked it, if you didn't, if you disagreed or agree with anything that we said, then let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear exactly what's on your mind. But for now, this has been The Push from Nick and KP. We'll see you all the next one. Take it easy, and see you next time. Goodbye.